What will happen in episode 2 of the final season of Game of Thrones? What can we learn from the trailer? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. If you want regular insight and intelligent debate about Game of Thrones and more, then click on the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. HBO have given us a trailer for episode 2 of season 8 of Game of Thrones, and there is a lot in it. There are no spoilers here, but we have quite a lot to go on from the trailer, the pre-season trailers, and an understanding of everyone's character arcs. We can map out a lot about what is going to happen. Episode 2 will pick up right after the end of episode 1. It's all, or mostly, going to be about Winterfell. There may be a few scenes from elsewhere, but it's mostly about what's going on there, so it will feel quite claustrophobic, and deliberately so. At the end of episode 1, we saw Jaime arrive at Winterfell, after travelling up north incognito, only to be welcomed by Bran with his inscrutable expression. Jaime is obviously shocked. The last time he saw Bran, he was pushing him out of a tower window, but Bran won't actually care that much, because he's not actually Bran anymore. As he said to Mira last season, he remembers being Bran, but isn't him anymore. And he hints at this lack of humanity to Jon in episode 1 as well. Jon says, "Look at you, you're a man." And Bran replies, "Almost." If we didn't know Bran better, we'd say that was quite an impressive bit of deadpan humour there. But the point is that Bran won't take what Jaime did to him personally. In fact, he will probably see what he did as necessary for him to become the Three-Eyed Raven. The greater drama, however, will be when others discover that Jaime has arrived, because there will be two huge issues for him to deal with. The first is, as we saw in the trailer, the fact that Jaime killed Dany's dad years ago. Dany never knew her father. He died before she was born, but she will be understandably angry when she finally meets Jaime face to face like this. Viserys had fed her a diet of propaganda about how her father was unjustly deposed, and Jaime was therefore a regicidal oathbreaker. He had sworn to protect the king with his life, but instead he killed the king. We know, of course, that Jaime did it because the Mad King was about to burn down King's Landing with wildfire. Jaime acted to save the lives of tens or hundreds of thousands of people, and the good news for Jaime is that others now know that too. He told Brienne about it in that bath seasons ago. Varys was actually there in King's Landing when Jaime did the deed, and Bran knows as well, because we saw some brief flashbacks of what happened in one of Bran's visions. Added to which, Dany's judgment here will not be taken in isolation from what else is going on in Winterfell. There are many layers here. Sam is already distraught to learn that Dany killed his own father and brother rather than offer clemency, and will be looking to see whether she does the same here. There's the pragmatic consideration that the army of the dead are approaching, and Jaime would be quite handy in the battle, quite literally. And of course, he is the only member of Team Cersei to actually honour the promises made in the Dragon Pit. All of these points will be bandied around in his sort of trial we see in the trailer. But the most intriguing voice will be Tyrion's. We've seen time and again how much Tyrion loves his brother. The trouble is that Tyrion interceding on behalf of his brother here will only go to show some, including Dany and Sansa, that he is blinded by his loyalty to his family. Which ties into the second key moment here, including Jaime, which will turn out to be a lot more important than his alleged historical crimes, I predict, because Jaime will bring with him news that Cersei has betrayed Dany, and will not be sending the Lannister army north. This news may well be the additional proof that is needed that Jaime is sincere. It will also be the additional proof that Dany needs that Tyrion is not offering her good advice anymore, because he was adamant that Cersei would keep to her word. I think this will have implications later on, because she can't have a hand of the Queen who she doesn't trust. Indeed, we see Dany and Sansa discussing this very point. This seems to be Dany quite symbolically walking straight past her previously trusted advisors to talk to Sansa. Dany rightly says to Sansa that Tyrion should never have trusted Cersei, and Sansa counters that Dany shouldn't have either. It's interesting that Sansa still seems to be in the mode of thinking that she knows better than everyone else. To be fair, here she does, and that she is taking this as evidence of Dany's own inadequacies. We are seeing, I think, the fracturing of support for Dany. Dany is turning her back on her old advisors like Varys and Tyrion. Sansa clearly doesn't think Dany is as wise as she would want a leader to be. Sam isn't a huge Daenerys fan right now, and the Northern Lords definitely aren't. The question is, what will happen when people discover that she isn't the rightful monarch? Jon is. Surely we will see people trying to take sides, even if Jon doesn't want them to, but that's all in the future. Here, Jon is still working through what it means that he is Rhaegar and Lyanna's son. We see Dany go down to the crypts to meet him where he is still brooding. Assuming he tells her, it will be quite a shock, but when she reflects on it, it might start to make sense to her. Targaryens have a history of marrying their family, and Jon certainly took to riding that dragon well. Davos's plan that Jon and Dany marry, and they rule together, will start to look quite appealing as a way to heal all those rifts. But all these tensions, accusations and conversations will be interrupted by the arrival of Ed, Tormund and Beric, fresh from the last hearth. They will be full of information that those at Winterfell will need to know. They will arrive before the army of the dead, so they will have had to overtake them in some way, which means that they both know when the army will arrive. Tormund says that they will arrive before the sun comes up the next day, and the size and shape of that army. This will throw everyone into frantic action. They will be working through the night to prepare, and all of the debates about who the rightful monarch is, who to trust and so on will be forgotten, or shelved more likely. We will pick up on a lot of these threads on the other side of the assault on Winterfell. But in this episode there will probably be quite a change of pace partway through. The first half will be about politics and human relationships, and the second half will be frantically getting ready for a battle the next day. Gendry will be overseeing giving out dragonglass weapons to people. Arya will get her staff. I have seen some suggestions that she has designed something that could be both a staff, which we know that she's good at using, and a detachable holder for her Valyrian steel dagger. That certainly seems to be what her design suggested. The pre-season trailers also seemed to show Unsullied with dragonglass-edged shields, and here Jorah seems to be drawing Heartsbane, the Tarly Valyrian steel sword. Jorah was with Dany when Sam asked for a pardon for stealing it, so he knows Sam has it, and it makes sense pragmatically for someone used to wielding a Valyrian steel sword actually to have one, rather than Sam, who's not great with a sword. We see Missandei and Grey Worm saying a fond farewell. I think it probably will be farewell, as Grey Worm is one of the most likely characters to be both killed and raised again as a White, if only because the tactics here seem to be to meet the army of the dead out in the field. There are defences here outside the castle walls. It's a questionable approach with an enemy who can raise your own dead to fight against you, but in terms of characters, it means that Grey Worm will be on the front line and first to face the enemy. We also see a trebuchet being fired, presumably as a practice. I wonder what they might put in that when the fight is for real. Something flammable, perhaps? Because normal tactics won't work. In terms of winning the battle, the Whites are actually largely a distraction, a rather ferocious distraction, but a distraction nonetheless. The key will be killing White Walkers, which, it appears, would lead to all of the Whites they control just collapsing, and then ultimately killing the Night King himself. This may look like a massive battle in Episode 3, but it won't be. It will be a massive game of chess in trying to destroy the Night King while a battle rages around outside, or perhaps more accurately, an attempt to end the magic that created the Night King. Because if Tormund, Beric and Ed tell the whole story of the Last Hearth, then they will need to describe the symbol left on the wall. This will be important because this will be the first time that all the different groups who have seen this symbol will be in one place. Jon and Dany will be able to recognise it from the cave paintings, and Bran as the pattern of standing stones from where the Night King was created. Might they start putting things together? Because this is the crux of how to kill the army of the dead. The magic that created the Night King has to be somehow undone. I hope that somewhere in this episode we see the brains trust of Sam and Bran, say, actually starting to try to figure out how to kill the Night King. I put some thoughts on how this might be achieved in my breakdown video for episode 1. It will be interesting to see whether they come to the same conclusions. If they do, the logical next step would be to take a dragon or dragons north to investigate that weirwood tree that the Night King was tied to. Anyway, this episode will almost certainly end with the army of the dead arriving at Winterfell, and the defenders looking on. There are several shots in the trailer of people looking moodily out from Winterfell's walls. I like this one of Jon, Ed and Sam, the watchers on the wall. But what else might we expect in episode 2? Well, there will surely be a reunion between Jaime and Brienne. It will be rushed because of the time constraints, but this will be different to all the other times. Jaime has left Cersei, and she will surely be impressed by his honour in standing by his promise to fight for the living. She alone has heard from his own lips why he killed the Mad King, and what it cost him personally, so it will be painful for her to see him tried for it by Daenerys. I hope we also see a House Mormont reunion. Jorah and Lyanna are both there in Winterfell, and in the trailers we see them in the same room. So how will she greet him, this man who caused so much dishonour to her house? Probably not kindly, but perhaps she will give him the chance to redeem himself. And there are 2 characters who are likely on their way to Winterfell. Theon said last episode that that was where he was going, so there's a chance that he might arrive in time for the battle, though he'd have to move quick. And there's Melisandre, who is surely returning. Her whole raison d'etre is about the battle between the living and the dead, and she won't want to miss the climactic battle. She will want to help Jon, who she thinks is the fabled prince that was promised, and if anyone thinks they know how to defeat the White Walkers, it will be her. She's banned from the north, of course, but I doubt that will stop her. And finally, down to King's Landing, there is Cersei. We may not see her at all in this episode, but it's worth keeping an eye on the pregnancy subplot. If she is pregnant with Jaime's baby, and intending to pretend to Euron that it's his, then she really will have to start showing at some point soon. She would have to be in her 2nd trimester by now. As an aside, I wonder whether back in Winterfell Tyrion will be forced into admitting that his reason for believing Cersei was going to keep her promise was because she hinted to him that she was pregnant with Jaime's child. If he does, and Jaime is there, it will make for interesting viewing. Please join me for live streams on Thursdays and Sundays all through the season, where I'll be discussing all the points raised in this episode with special guests and making predictions about future episodes. If you'd like to see more of my Game of Thrones Season 8 videos, please click on this link on the left of the screen. Or if you'd like to support the channel, or get some exclusive content or priority access on my live streams, please click on the link to my Patreon page on the right of the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.